Lift every voice and sing. 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 Lift every voice and sing.
Welcome to the CAAAS Conversations. I'm your host, Reiland Rabaka, founder and director of the Center for African and African American Studies, which we call the CAAAS, here at the University of Colorado, Boulder. Today we are joined by Dr. Tanya Ennis. Dr. Ennis is the director of the Bold Center in the College of Engineering and Applied Science at the University of Colorado, Boulder. She studied electrical engineering at Southern University and HBCU and earned her master's degree in computer engineering from the University of Southern California. Dr. Ennis earned her PhD in learning science and human development in May 2022 from the School of Education at the University of Colorado, Boulder. She won the Outstanding Dissertation Award for her dissertation entitled Yearning to Learn, a qualitative comparative analysis of Black engineering students deciding to stay or leave engineering majors. She has numerous accolades and awards, and I am delighted to be in dialogue with her today. Welcome to the show, Dr. Ennis.
Thank you, Dr. Rabaka. It's so great to be here. And I think I may have given you misinformation. I am no longer the Bold Center director.
Oh.
I think later in my bio, I pointed out that I have transitioned to the SpectrumX Center broadening participation director, and also working broadening participation in the research support office in the College of Engineering and Applied Science here at CU Boulder. So thank you for that very, very warm welcome. I appreciate you.
Listen, I want to say thank you for helping me clean it up. You know, thank you. Thank you for helping me clean up the bio. You've got the promotion. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank
also,
you.
Congratulations on the brand new PhD. What an absolutely awesome accomplishment. We're going to be discussing some of that. Again, your bio is so incredible. You have done so much, such a colorful life. And I just want to sort of offer up my dear sister, Doctor, as a model, introduce you to our audience. I know you are a legend on this campus, but for folks who may not know you, you better watch out. For folks who may not know you, I want to sort of introduce you. And so this dialogue, this conversation is long overdue, long time coming, as Sam Cooke say. It's a long time coming. And I just want to welcome you to the show. And are you okay with me hitting you with the first question so we can start the conversation?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. And I'm honored and humbled that you think that I'm a legend on the campus.
You are. Stop playing.
I'm just Tanya. I bring myself and who I am, and and I just do what I know I'm supposed to do and what I know my folks would want me to do. So that's how I show up. So. Well,
you know what? That is actually part of what makes you a legend. Your characteristic, humility, your modesty, and everything. So again, I just want to shout you out. I don't think that we do this enough as a people, and certainly not as colleagues on the Boulder campus. We don't shout each other out enough and sort of recognize folks' expertise and how like we all have a special part to play in doing this. And I just want to shout you out. So this is, I'm turning the limelight on you, baby. Today.
All right. You know all right. Well, I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna soak in it, and I appreciate it. I'm still feel like I'm glowing from graduation.
Thank you, Doctor.
Yeah, starting a doctoral program, as an older person, right, is a challenge, but it was a very good learning opportunity. And Beautiful. So I did so much. So so you can hit me whatever question you like, and we could get started.
Here we go. First question. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your professional background? We've kind of gotten into it, but a little bit more, please.
Okay. All right. So let's see a little bit about myself. When I always talk about myself, I talk about, me as a person, not necessarily as my job and my roles, but I am from a small town in Louisiana. I grew up in rural Louisiana, a little town called Plaquemine, Louisiana.
Okay.
Really close to Baton Rouge, on the west side of the Mississippi River, which is about 20 miles south of Baton Rouge. I grew up in a very large family. So I am one of 15 children. My parents, yes, sir. My parents were married 67 years before my father passed away in 2015, but I'm number 11 out of the 15. So I'm what they call the beginning of the babies, if you break us into thirds, right? And so I have 11 sisters and 3 brothers. So there are 12 daughters and 3 guys, right?
Wow.
Recently just lost our first sibling in December. God rest her soul.
My condolences.
Yeah, thank you so much. But it's been a long run, right? I mean, it's all of us were single births, no twins or anything like that, but all of us look kind of alike. And so I grew up, not with a whole lot. We grew up pretty low income. Neither of my parents finished high school, right? And so there was maybe a thought that maybe we wouldn't either, right? And so, but my parents were, really, really involved in the civil rights movement. They were involved in equity and education. They knew the value of education. And so they fought for that. And so my whole life, I've really been kind of a nerdy person, right? I was into the books. I was the one who didn't show up to dinner on time because I'm in the back trying to get my homework done and that kind of thing. And so I was always interested in math and science and patterns. When you don't have a lot of money, you do a lot of you're very creative with entertaining 15 children. So we did a lot of cards, board games and everything. And so I used to love like just being outside. I was kind of a little bit of a tomboy growing up, playing tackle football with no pads on with my nephews and brothers and climbing trees. And, I also did, a lot of stuff with my sisters, like the jump ropes and hopscotch and a lot of the things that you don't see young people doing today, right? But we had a lot of community. And so my parents built our network in our family of the older ones helped take care of the younger ones. I would share that I was always 2 years ahead in math because my sister, who's 2 years older than me, would teach me her math. I would say, well, what are you doing, right? And so I would be sometimes in class bored because I already knew the stuff, right? So yeah, so we did a lot of that, teaching each other and learning from each other. Let's see what else. I learned 3 instruments in high school.
Which instruments? I'm sorry, I'm a musician. Which instruments?
Okay, so
teach now.
I played flute first, then I learned saxophone, then I learned oboe, which is a very difficult instrument to play. Just the armature and the reed is so small. But I really wanted to play drums. And so my first thing I want to let you know is like my band director was a Black man. And I told him, he asked me when I start, what instrument you want to play? I said, I want to play drums. And he says, try flute. And I was like, get flute done. And I was like, so anyway, he kept deflecting. He would never let me play. I think it was sexism. That's a whole nother thing. Then when I got to Southern, I'm going to call Southern out because Southern's band was all male when I started college. I attended Southern on an academic scholarship for engineering, but I really wanted to be in the band. And they would not let me audition for band because it was all male. And yet I saw a lot of the guys I sat first chair saxophone. I was section lead. I was drum major at my high school. But the people who were behind me were afforded opportunity and I was not. And so, I grew up looking at a lot of things from a lens of me being shortchanged because I was either a woman or I was Black or both, the intersectionality of being a Black woman.
That's right.
Right. And so, and being in the field of engineering, also a STEM field, which is dominated mostly by men, is continually having to justify, right? I love my family. I'm married. I've been married to a wonderful man, Cedric Ennis Sr., 32 years. Woohoo! And yeah, it's real, right?
That's really real.
It's real. And it's been great. He's my best friend. And a lot of people were, well, how do you make this work? Well, if you're not a friend before you get married, if you don't have God in the center of your relationship, you're gonna struggle. right? That's my opinion, right? And so my reality is faith. I'm a very much spiritual person. I'm Christian. I'm Catholic. It was interesting. A lot of my brothers and sisters are no longer Catholic for probably reasons you can probably figure out, with the church being very controversial. But I'm a member of a Black Catholic church here in the Denver area. And we're small, but we're very mighty, right?
Go ahead.
Curé de Ars Catholic Church, Martin Luther King and Dahlia, y'all come see us. 11 o'clock service. If you want to join, please come join us. So I come from a lot of background where, because I am a Black woman and I, grew up in the Deep South, I have experienced a lot of hurdles and barriers as it relates to being a part of society the way I want to be. And so, but I never give up, and I don't apologize for who I am, and I live life. I love people. I do have to share, I am a member of one of the Divine Nine. Here's my Delta Sigma Theta scarf. You all saw I wore my kente cloth for graduation. I've been a member. I pledged Delta at Alpha Tau chapter, Southern University in Baton Rouge back in 1986. I'm dating myself. I've been a Delta for 36 years. I've been really active. Yeah. So, my sorors would be like, you didn't even bring us up. No, I wore the scarf, and I'm talking about shout out. Right. And so all of those things, my faith, my church, my family, my husband, my children, all of that is a part of who I am. I'm a grandmother. I have a grandson who is in high school, and, we collectively, I have 2 stepdaughters who are out of state, 2 sons who were raised here in Denver, both college educated sons. And, like I have 3 grandchildren here in Colorado, 3 in Louisiana. And so that is part of my identity too. And so you can see like this navigating of identity across, and the responsibility, definitely, that I carry. But you know what? I love all of that.
Absolutely. Well, and that's what makes you, right? This is so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I just want to say, again, this is off the record, on the record. I don't really care, because I can just do me and be me. And I hope more people will do them and be them. But I just be encouraged. You are, I see you as a model, right? Because again, you're not afraid to talk about the setbacks and some of the hurdles. But also, I'm looking at somebody, Dr. Ennis, who has had a breakthrough, right? Yes. And you didn't give up. So that spirit of determination that we link to Harriet Tubman, to Sojourner Truth, to Ida B. Wells, don't make me roll call, right? To your sorority, right? That spirit of determination, you seem to embody that quite beautifully. Let me go to the second question, because we got these time constraints. Here we go. What initially attracted you to the College of Engineering and Applied Science in particular, and CU Boulder in general?
Yeah, and so quite frankly, I wasn't looking. Somebody came and found me, right? I was actually teaching high school at the Denver School of Science and Technology. I was actually teaching mathematics there. I think I was their first Black teacher at DSST. And there was someone who, her name is Jackie Sullivan. She's recently retired from CU Boulder, worked in College of Engineering. And she was on the board for the Denver School of Science and Technology. And every year they'd ask me, are you coming back? And I was like, I got to pray about it. Okay. And so after 3 years of me, 3 or 4 years of me saying, I got to pray about it, and then coming back, she approached me because she watched me. She watched me teach. She watched me how, I was big on community there and engaging with students. My son was a student at DSST, graduated from there, went on to Tuskegee and got his degree in engineering. That's another track we can talk about at another episode. Yeah. And then she approached me. She said, at CU Boulder in engineering, we're thinking about having a different approach to how we serve diverse students. And we have some positions that we would love for you to apply for. There's one position in particular. And so we talked, and I interviewed, I submitted my material, interviewed. I didn't get that position, but since she said, hey, but there's this other position that we're starting, this program called the Engineering GoldShirt Program, which is modeled after the athletic red shirt, where, you know, the athletes are given that first year to prepare.
That's right.
So we're looking for an academic red shirt. We have the funding for it and so forth. What do you think about it? And so I went back and had another interview, and we talked about that. And I said, well, I never really thought about teaching at a university. Maybe I should give it a shot, right? And, you know, because I love school so much and I did well in school, I was like, I'll give it a shot. And I'm big on diversity. You know, that's the one reason I taught at DSST, is because I wanted to help students, you know, excel academically. And so I took her up on it. And it was interesting because I don't think I had an offer letter in place when I quit my other job.
Oh.
And so, you know, I had this
stepping out on faith, stepping out on faith and saying, hey, this is an opportunity. And so let's see where it goes. And so that's how I was attracted. I actually really didn't know a lot about CU Boulder. And then the more and more I started working, you know, that first year, I was like, oh, this is a Research One University. Oh, there are people who are doing like leading edge things, not just in engineering, but across the campus. And I was like, wow, this is really, it was really overwhelming for me at first. But that was the reason why, because it wasn't just, oh, come work in this program that's already established. Right.
There was this push to make change. And for me, one of my strengths, my Clifton strengths, is significance. And so I always look for opportunities to make a significant impact. So that's kind of how I showed up at CU.
Excellent. Well, this next question is connected to that question. Let me begin by saying congratulations on your new role as the SpectrumX and Research Support Office Broadening Participation Director. Now, that's a long title.
Long title.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
Would you tell us about your work? Would you share with us why you're so committed to developing and studying strategies that can create a more equitable environment for BIPOC and first-generation students in engineering?
Well, I think, you know, you heard my background, right?
Yes.
And so I think for me, it's been over 30 years and I've been out of undergraduate, and we're still having the same issues, right?
Teach.
And so I'm like, okay, we talk a good game, but are we really moving the needle, right? And I look at these young people and I don't want them to have the same barriers and all the things that I've experienced. Like, this is ridiculous. And so I feel committed because, quite honestly, there were people who were committed for me.
That's right.
Right. I remember in my people who, my family hopefully will watch this, Grace Starks and Arnett James. I'm gonna call those elders out by name, who fought for equity and justice for education in my little hometown and removed the barriers so that I could graduate valedictorian in my class, that I could have an opportunity to be educated and go on to college and pursue all the unnamed ancestors who came before me.
That's right.
You know, who may not have even talked to me about it, but they were like, we just want her to excel, you know. So somebody did it for me. And, you know, one of the things I take really seriously is my commitment to, you know, the values that we have in the sorority, you know, and educational development is one, especially in STEM fields. There are not enough of us there. And so when we have a young person, especially BIPOC student, who says, I want to be an engineer, they've thought about that.
Right.
Because there's a lot of other options. Right. And a lot of the peers are saying, you don't want to do that. You know, that's what, you know, white men do that. And, you know, you should go into this, or you should go into that, or go into entertainment, or go to college to play ball. Well, I had to inform young people, you don't get a degree in football.
Come on.
You don't get a degree in basketball. Okay, I'm just going to put it out there. You don't go to school to play. You go to school to learn, become educated. And playing football is an extracurricular activity. Yes, it's a scholarship if you're on that, but it is not the only reason you go to school, right? And so for me, I want folks, if you think that's what you want to do, I want to do the best that I can to remove those barriers.
Excellent.
And provide you the resources and tell the story as to, and give the formula. Here's the formula to helping BIPOC students succeed. Right. I was first generation. I walked on campus. I did not know you know, like a registrar in the bursar, financial aid. And the lines at Southern University for financial aid was wrapped around the building.
There you go. You know, I know something about it. I'm first generation too now. Come on, I'm
really
from the working class, baby, all the way at the bottom.
Where'd you go to school though? Where's your undergrad?
I went to the University of the Arts. So I did all arts training. So
nice.
I trained to be a jazz musician. What's up, New Orleans? Wait. I'm a drummer. So when you were talking about drummers, I'm a drummer by training, and that's nice. How a guy goes from the projects to the professorate is music scholarships. But again, there were a lot of people who invested in me, and that's the tradition that it sounds like we come out of. That by them investing in us, we are supposed to give back and invest. And the whole issue with mentoring, when you start talking about the American Academy, Black folk oftentimes don't have a lot of models and mentors for what it is that they want to do. And that leads me into my fourth question. You can see I've got a little, I feel like a DJ. I'm a mixed master in here. Watch this. So listen, check this out. I know you have an electrical engineering degree from Southern University and a master's degree in computer engineering from the University of Southern California, along with your brand new PhD in learning sciences and human development from the University of Colorado, Boulder. Why is it so important for African Americans, and especially African American women, to participate in and contribute to STEM education?
It's important because our perspective is really unique and rich. Right. And if we're not at the table, STEM misses out. Our country misses out, the world misses out. I want you to think about the life of a Black woman in America for over the centuries. I know you can't probably see this 1619 on my calendar. This is a calendar from Equal Justice Initiative, right? I just flipped it this morning because I'm a day behind in June, and that's what it had. Since 1619, we've been carrying the country. Now, don't you want to know how we did it?
Come on.
I mean, there's strategies and resources and ways, ideation and creativity in the way that we're able to ebb and flow, overcome the adversity, raise our family, raise other people's children, educate. And then, so we work a full work week on the weekends. We're volunteering in the community.
There you go.
And then Sunday we're at church, deaconess, ministers, and doing all this stuff. And how do we do that? How do we balance that? What creativity and what organizational structures in our brain are we making and creating to be able to do that? So that richness, right? STEM needs that.
Absolutely.
We need another perspective of, well, if you're solving this problem, don't you want as many diverse minds at the table so we can come up with the best solution, not just not the same old, where we're thinking about how, okay, we don't want our communities polluted. So let's eliminate as much waste from this chemical process or this refinement process or this manufacturing process so that it doesn't impact any community. But unfortunately, our communities get impacted because we may be the ones that are dealing with the waste. I don't need to talk to you about Flint. We already know what happened with the
Commerce City. Commerce City, right here. One of the most polluted zip codes. One of the most polluted zip codes in America is right here in the Denver metropolitan area.
Exactly. And we know that. It would never be in Boulder.
Thank you. Listen, I'm also building on what you just said. Again, I'm going off script, but the fact that no one human group has a monopoly on science. See, science means different things. When we start talking about a Black feminist epistemology, the way that sisters come to know things and share knowledge, create knowledge, disseminate knowledge is qualitatively different than a lot of other folks. So even when we start talking about science, what you articulated a African-American conception of science. And if we're talking about science in this country, then it will be diminished if African-American women are not sitting at the table, if Mexican American women are not
Right.
sitting at the table,
Right.
indigenous women, Asian American women, so on and so forth, queer and trans folk as well.
Exactly.
Come on, let's talk about it.
Talk about everything.
You see what I'm saying, though?
Everything.
So an inclusive conception of science is what I hear you articulating, and it is inspiring. I'm saying it to your eardrums. It is inspiring.
It's true. It's so true. I mean, you know, I remember watching, was it last year, Paradise, California went up in flames. That's and right. I was trying to wrap my head around that it was completely gone. And in some news report, I heard this glimmer that said, but the Native American, the indigenous people in that area knew the science behind wildfires and had the knowledge to prevent it, and we didn't listen.
Teach, you see?
And then we got it right here in our backyard, and we're still not listening. So this powerful. Indigenous ways of knowing are also important, and we're not listening. And so this positivist way of approaching the epistemologies, right, of this is the only way to learn and the only way to do research and the only way of knowing for science and STEM, wow, is very limiting to us.
Wow, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So we know the research says, I think it's Metten, Lee, there's a whole bunch of them that wrote an article about the case for diversity. And it says when we show up in a diverse group, we show up better than if we were in a homogeneous group.
Beautiful.
So we want everybody.
Teach an inclusive conception, right? Yes. Of science, of education at CU Boulder. Talk about a homogenous environment. Don't get me started now, right? I'm gonna leave. Wait, come on. Let me go to the next question. We're running out of time. Watch this.
Okay.
What was it like to simultaneously be an African-American staff member and PhD student at the University of Colorado, Boulder? This is incredible to think about this duality, if you will. Yes. Talk about intersectionality.
Yeah. It was challenging. I felt like I was, going into two different worlds. The culture in the School of Education is very different from the culture in the College of Engineering and Applied Science. And so I felt like I was doing this switch back and forth, right? And I learned, no, Tanya, you can't work a half a day and go to school half a day. I had to rework the schedule and say, either it's a school day or it's a work day. I did end up going, I worked half-time for the first 3 years to do my coursework and all of that stuff. And then after my comprehensive exam, I was able to work full-time, and then the opportunity to be promoted to the Boulder Center director came. And so it elevated the demands of my life. And so I will say I had wonderful people who supported me both in engineering and in the School of Education, and were empathetic to, like, some days I'm going to be pulled this way, some days I'm going to be pulled that way. And plus my personal life, I just communicated. I felt like I needed to over communicate what my needs were. And so, that was a challenge to be able to do that. The other thing is I put a lot of my personal life on ice. I didn't do as much socially. I didn't do as much, with my church and the sorority. I mean, I still stayed connected, but I really had to spend time balancing. And I really would not have been able to do this without my husband. I will tell you, the brother stepped up. He said, I got this. He's a wonderful cook, and he made sure I was eating. He reminded me to eat. He reminded me it's time to rest, and so having that partner was really great. And then CU just had, really great resources that I could access from home. Like the library is really, really great.
That's true.
That I didn't have to physically be in the library, that I could actually gain a lot of the resources that I needed electronically. So, and then people would say all the time, well, how are you doing this? And it does take a sacrifice.
Oh, yes. Indeed.
Financially,
seriously.
Time, social life. And so I'm now just getting back to like, oh, okay, I don't have to do homework tonight. Like we can go to dinner if we want, or we can go hang out with the neighbors or meet some friends. And so that feels good. And I'm just grateful to everyone who supported me through the process and encouraged me. I would get people who were just like, hey, I'm just thinking of you and I just want you to send an encouraging word to you.
Wow.
I would get that. And so, my little angels all around.
That's
really
so
support.
incredible. This is so, because we hear a lot about the horror stories of pursuing a PhD, but again, I don't want to sound like my intellectual idol, Du Bois, who said, you're not going to achieve anything without struggle, sacrifice, and service. Those three things that triad is central to the work that we do. And there's some people that want to achieve stuff and they don't want to make any sacrifices. Good luck with that is all I would say. Let me shout you out again for achieving your PhD in the midst of a pandemic. So it was difficult when I did. It was hard. It was rough. It was tough. Nobody in my family ever went to a college, or they haven't even mopped the floor of a university, right? And so it was very difficult to do it in the middle of COVID-19. Special shout out. Let me go to question number 6. We're running out of time. Here we go.
I know we run out of time, but I also have to add with you to this. I had both of my knees replaced in the middle of my. Yes. I had December 2018. I had my left one done in July of 2021. Oh. I had the right one done. And so, but I had to do it, but otherwise I was not going to be able to finish my doctorate. I was in so much pain. Oh. So yeah, so all of that.
Bless your heart. Yes. Bless your heart. Shout out to your health. Practice self-care. Yes. Please practice self-care. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Here we go.
Okay.
Would you tell us a little bit about your dissertation, Yearning to Learn, a qualitative comparative analysis of Black engineering students deciding to stay or leave engineering majors? What is it about, in brief? And what are some of the major findings and conclusions? How will you use your dissertation in your future work?
Right. Yeah. So that's a loaded question.
It is, isn't
the dissertation, boil it down into 2 minutes, Tanya, 6 years of work. So I wanted to really investigate and dive into what is really happening with Black students in engineering. I know my experience, right? But I know mine is not everybody's.
Okay.
And time has changed and all of that. And so my motivation again is like, okay, you get the person, this Black student who says, I want to study engineering.
Right.
We are not to take that lightly. That young person had to go through a lot to get to the point, because it's set up for you not to succeed, right? It's just not, it's not set up for you to succeed. And so there were some students that I was like, some students are doing very well. Some students are struggling and still staying. Some students are doing well and leaving. Some students are struggling. I'm like, well, wait, what is going on? Like the phenomenon that was happening, I couldn't understand. I was like, they're on scholarship. They have a community, they're doing good in school. Why is there this exodus? What is going on? So that was my motivation. And so just quickly, my findings, I did a qualitative comparative analysis as compared to some of the other methods, because there's a lot of quantitative data out there.
Okay.
Right. But there's not this understanding of the people that represent those dots. Right. And so I don't like reducing people down to a number or a quantity, and then people draw conclusions and start stereotyping, right?
Yes.
And so I wanted to peel back the layer and do, some qualitative analysis along with quantitative, right? And so the qualitative comparative analysis is a fairly new method that I actually had to learn and teach myself along the way to compare the stayers and the leavers, and doing the coding and all of that to figure out like what are these factors, right? And so what I looked at was there are multiple factors basically, right? And there's like constellations of configurations for stayers, and the same is true for leavers. Because what I didn't want to do is to reduce it down to here's the one factor, now let's go fix that one thing.
Okay. It's
not, it's a combination of things. And there's multiple combinations. And I'm just going to give you a little drizzle of what matters for the stayers, like having a strong engineering identity, having access and utilizing the academic support, having a really strong peer support friend group.
Excellent.
That doubles as a study group. Okay. And then the financial piece, is big. Students who come from financially secure are good. Those who struggle, some of them, if they can struggle through it, they'll make it. The leavers, if the financial thing is too hard to overcome, they're leaving, right? The consistent theme throughout, as I did the study, is the racialized environment. Those experiences of racialized environment is happening for both stayers and leavers. And so the thing about it is there's some students who have coping skills and are experiencing the environment differently.
Okay.
And so depending on the way they're experiencing the racialized environment is a factor, not the only one, is a factor in both their ability to stay or leave. So that's just kind of the boilerplate. And then what do I plan to do with that is really educate, right? And look at that from the lens of, okay, if you're not ready to deal with these factors, I'm not sure that you should be recruiting Black students to come to your university.
Please say that again. Okay.
I don't say it. It's recorded. You can rewind.
I was joking, man.
But I'm just saying, like, for real, like, right. Don't tell me you want diversity and you're not ready to be inclusive. You're not willing to learn about, the cultural competence, intercultural competence that's necessary to welcome people and have them be successful, right? And so I think I really wanted to share that to say, these experiences are real, they are happening, and here's the ways in which the things are being experienced. And for some students, it's too much to overcome. Some students, they're hustling, they're getting their hustle on, and they're getting it done. Wow. But at the end of the day, why would we want to make it that difficult?
There you go.
Like, that's inequity, right? There's some students who don't have to worry about the microaggressions and the racialized environment, all of that stuff, right? They start here. And some of our, not all of our Black students, right. The Black students, the Black engineers, but they may have to overcome that, right? And so, yeah, there were some other things I'm going to write about in the future. I want to write more about mental health issues that were experienced, physical health issues that were experienced as being a part of the environment. Wow. The role of the family and the role of your circle, of your community, and this whole social cultural ways of learning and knowing that these young people have grown up with, right? Shout out to Naila Nasir, right? For the social cultural learning theory.
That's right.
And then you come into an environment that's siloed, that's a detachment, you're isolated, like how do you function? So going back to tap into that network and that support system, the familial support system is important.
Wow, your work sounds fascinating, brilliant, in fact. And what I really, really like about it, and I'm just going to be me, is the pragmatic, the practical dimension of it, that you've created a theory that literally can be applied to real life human beings with real problems that they're searching for solutions to and everything. And in that sense, your work is very much in the realm of African American studies and African studies. Welcome for African American Studies, Dr. Ennis, your community. Before we go, because again, we could do this all day, and we're gonna do it again. We're just gonna say it in front of everybody. Let's touch and agree. We're gonna do this again. We're gonna have a follow-up conversation. But before you go, could I ask, with your incredible wisdom that you have, do you have any closing thoughts or advice for the CAAAS community, for the Center for African and African American Studies community, which you are a key member of?
Well, thank you for the admission to the center. I appreciate you opening your doors for me to be a part of it. I think, there's so much I want to say. First of all, it's long overdue. So I applaud the students who took the lead and pushed to have this happen. Second of all, I think we need to make sure that we're fostering a spirit of community in that center, right? The spirit of, what we're supposed to be. We got your back. We got each other's back. I don't want to see some of the things that have been taught to us from the torments of slavery, of tearing each other down.
There you go.
Crabs in the barrel,
Yeah.
all of that. There's a lot of room for excellence, and we need to be uplifting, right? And so I would just say, like, whatever happens in the center and what you're creating, that it is something that is positive, uplifting, encouraging, and that it's not just in a box. I think we talked about the silos, that reach out and touch across campus, across communities, because there's a need for CAAAS to educate, right? And to tap into the research all over campus.
There you go. So transdisciplinarity, which is the way that I've conceived of the center, transdisciplinary, intersectional, student-centered, staff-centered, even faculty-focused as well. It can be all of those things. It should be all of those things. And it's too few of us on the Boulder campus anyway. It's going to have to be. Holla if you hear me. All of those things. But the students are at the center of it. And how can this be a clearinghouse where we share and showcase the best of our history, our culture, our struggle, our lives? Ooh, a lot of what you just said in your work, what you're doing. Thank you for doing it.
You're welcome.
Incredible. Listen, let me say, Dr. Tanya Ennis, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. We so appreciate you. We are so open to whatever contributions you make to the cause as we get it going. We're approaching our grand opening this fall. Certainly, again, this is your community. Please run tell, as Denise LaSalle said, run tell that. Would you please run tell? All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Ennis. And let me sign off. I'm Reiland Rabaka, and I thank you for watching the CAAAS Conversations.
Lift every voice and sing. Lift every voice and sing. Lift every voice and sing.